Welcome to the Pasho Perspective, a place where I share my perspective on everything in the space between life and death. I'm your host, Pasho Summer Sessions. Today we're going to do a little testimony time, and we're going to talk about the first time my wife and I went out on a date. Now, this is going to be in defense of online dating, which is not the typical mode in which I dated people, and to be forthright, I've dated quite a few, probably over 100. Again, I'm not trying to boast or anything like that. I'm actually not proud of that at all, but that'll be a different podcast for another time. But this one is going to be about the first time I met my wife and a little bit about how we met. So after a very long dating career, I guess you could probably call it, since I was, I think, 13 all the way until I was 31, about to be 32 when I met my wife. I had, played the field. I dated girls in high school, girls in college, girls that I worked with, girls that I met at work, random hookups at bars and things like that. And, I don't want to get too deep into that because it really, again, I'm not trying to, boast about it or anything. But it is what it is. And so I figured, since the modes of dating that I had chosen were not working, hanging out at the ale house 7 days a week at the bar, waiting for true love, not really the most effective strategy. Not to say that it doesn't work, because I do know a couple of people who met at that place, they're not together anymore, but that's besides the point. So anyway, I figure I'm going to give eHarmony a chance. And I had already been on Match and had lots of dates on Match, some of which I will share those stories with you too, because some of them are pretty funny. I figured Match really, it was just a hookup place. And I'd done it, I did that since I was 13, and I was kind of over it. I wanted the real thing. I've been very fortunate, and privileged in that my mother and father are still together and have a loving relationship. And so that was my model. That was my ideal, as Jordan Peterson would say. That was my goal, actually. And so I figure, if this isn't working, my going out and just meeting random people, then maybe putting myself out there, articulating what exactly I want, might be more successful. And so that's what I did. I went on to eHarmony and I subscribed, I think, for 3 months. And I went on, a few dates. I think in 3 months, I maybe dated 3 or 4 people for random amounts of time, some a week, another one maybe a month or so. And, it didn't really work out, but it was definitely more substantial than in Match. Match, I really just felt like if you called me the next day, it was kind of like a recommendation to your friends or like a like or something. But in eHarmony, I felt that, these women were trying to establish something, although it really felt that they were there because they knew what they wanted, but they didn't really want it at that time. But again, that's just my hypothesis. I don't really know. I can't mind read. But needless to say, they didn't work out. And man, I was so frustrated. I can't even tell you, what does that mean? Like I tell my students, sometimes God tests you, because you're not ready yet. And, for me, having to date 100 women, I joke with them and say, what does that mean about me? Like, thanks Lord for eventually chiseling me down and getting here, but really I needed to date 100 people to fix, what was wrong, to prepare me for my wife. I don't know, that seems a little excessive, but anyway, that's who I am. That's where I had to go and correct and change and, everything else for the happy ending that eventually I'm going to get to. But, it was my last week, and, not to say that I am, I'm certainly not perfect by any means, but I had the audacity, in my youth, a very young 30, to offer up an ultimatum to our Lord and Savior. And, I know it's not the right thing to do. And I know it probably has absolutely no sway in the decision of what he was going to do for me. But it does seem kind of timely that when I offered up this ultimatum, which I will tell you what it is, I then get paired up with my wife. And so the ultimatum that I offered up to my father was, Lord, if you want me to be a father and to have all these dreams that you have put in my heart and in my mind for so long, then you're going to help me find the person that I'm going to be with, and I think maybe there it's because I let go, I gave him control instead of myself trying to decide this is who I love and this is when I love. And even if it's a square, I'm going to jam it into this triangle hole. I finally just kind of let go and I said, all right, God, you take the wheel. But then the ultimatum was, if you don't lead me to the person who I'm supposed to then dedicate my life to and start a family, I'm going to continue living a debauched life. And, I had 100 and I saw myself like Kareem Abdul Jabbar going, maybe 800-900 more until the end of my life, where I would, I envision myself living, alone, but, visited often by the female persuasion and it being shallow and I having to then acquiesce to being a shallow man. And I mean, it wasn't the ideal. It certainly wasn't what I wanted. Never dreamed of having that kind of lifestyle, but I was resigned to live it. I was good at it. My friends used to call me El Rico Suave back in the day. I used to have, the Wizard, the Magic Man, other nicknames and stuff like that. But anyway, getting off topic. So, that's what I did. It was my Hail Mary, the last week of eHarmony for me after a 3-month subscription. And going then into another point of view, my wife had been with somebody for I think 7 years, something like that. It was a really serious relationship from high school, then through college, which was kind of a good thing because it helped her, get through it and pay it off and everything. And, kind of keep her a little preserved for me. But anyway, without having to share too much of her, because the podcast is about me and I don't want to put her out there, but she had been in this serious relationship. The guy, from all accounts, not just her own, but from neighbors and friends and stuff, was not good for her. All right. And let's just put it that way. And let me just tell you that that's a very mild way of putting it. But, I don't want to be petty and, I have no hard feelings. I mean, what happened had to happen so that I could meet her. And so, like I said, thank goodness, that he was there to, help her, achieve all of her goals and stuff. At least in that regards, he was pretty cool. So, she had ended that relationship and she wanted to date, as I mentioned, she had gone out with him and moved in with him after high school and never really dated around. She was a good country girl and, didn't really have a lot of promiscuous relationships. And so she wanted to not necessarily play the field, but she figured it was going to take time to get to know, what you want. And so she had these goals, right? That are not goals. I mean, I guess she had this ambition that it was going to take her at least a year. And so she subscribed for an entire year on eHarmony. And the irony that I love is I was the first date that she went on. And I mean, obviously, how the rest went. We got 3 children now, married for 10 years, known each other for a dozen. And so anyway, she had the long run idea and she had already set up when we went out, she set up 3 dates, with like a lawyer or doctor and something else. And, here's me, your high school teacher. So anyway, and she was very, honest about that on the first day, that just to let you know, I got these other things set up. So, not to put any pressure, but, she thought it would be fair. And I loved that honesty right from the beginning, from her. So anyway, so we eventually, got to know each other. I was very forthright on my eHarmony profile. I pretty much said, I want everything, all your time, all your energy, all your love, all of that. But I did say that, I am going to give you the same. And I'm pretty sure it pushed a lot of people away. I got a lot of views, not to say that I'm handsome or anything, but I got a lot of views and I got very little, emails from people. So it's kind of like, yeah, interesting, but whoa, this guy is like way over the edge. And maybe I was, but again, 100 people, I'm really tired of the game. I'm in my 30s, I'm thinking, biological clock is ticking, boom, 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 right? Like my cousin Vinny. So we decided to go out and meet each other at a restaurant. And so we went to a sushi restaurant. And it's kind of funny how everything works out. At the time I was not living with my parents. I had my own place, but I would eat with them almost every night, so I didn't have to cook myself. My mother is an amazing chef, and so I love to eat at their house and, and have their company and conversation. And, I kind of mentioned to them that I got this date, I'm going to be going out later. We were having lunch, and, I said, we're going to go, and, and I didn't tell them where I was going. I was just saying that we were going on a date and that, I really had hopes for this one. I really thought this was going to work out. And so we went to the sushi place that unfortunately is no longer open. They demolished the building. But anyway, it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. And I mean, she went up for one plate. I went up for one plate. All you can eat. And that's all we got. And didn't even finish the food, really. It was just such good conversation, man. She started talking about God. She started talking about her family. She started talking about how she helps her family. She started talking about how she worked for, or not worked for, but volunteered for Horses for the Handicap and all the different things she did there. I mean, I instantly fell in love with her. Of course, I didn't tell her that, and she knows that now, but I mean, I really did. I was so done with superficial beauty. It was so refreshing to find somebody who was so beautiful on the inside to match the outside. And so, man, I felt so blessed. And so to make the story even more interesting, my parents came into that restaurant with their friends. They were going out to have dinner too, and they decided to go to the all-you-can-eat sushi place. And oh my gosh, it was so random because, again, I didn't tell them that I was going to be there, and they certainly wouldn't have gone if they knew that I was there to give me some privacy. But alas, there they were. And the way they set it up was my mother and father were at the seats that were looking at our table, and their friends had their backs to us. And of course, their friends came up to the table to say hello. My parents, gave me the privacy and respect and just kind of went to the table. But, I did tell her that they were my parents, and, even my father, the next day made a comment about how he loved the way that she was looking at me, like she was really into me. It wasn't just, well, we're here and we're having a good time. It was a really eating up everything. Like I was eating up everything that she was putting out. And, so he felt really confident too that things were going to go far. But here is the Saki story, right? The title of this podcast is, after all, the Saki story. So let's get into it. As I had mentioned, because of my previous exploits, I wanted to be sure that this was going to be the one, and I had worn a mask for so long in my life, man, wanting to fit in. I mean, the burden of youth, it takes a long time for you to realize that, honestly, the only opinion that matters is you of yourself. And who cares what other people say? You have to be true to yourself if you really want to be happy, because otherwise you're just pretending. You're playing a role, and it's not authentic, and it's not you, and it's never going to feel authentic, and it's never going to feel real in you until you actually reveal who you are and you have that vulnerability. And so I was tired of playing the game. I mean, I used to smoke cigarettes. I stopped smoking cigarettes for ex-girlfriends. I stopped using profanity for some ex-girlfriends. I stopped even trying to be funny or sarcastic for ex-girlfriends. I stopped doing other things for ex-girlfriends. I stopped drinking for ex-girlfriends. I mean, I stopped hanging out with friends for ex-girlfriends, right? I mean, I tried to be really holy. I tried to be a bad boy. I tried to be a beatnik. I tried to be, a symbolist and romantic. I mean, all these different things in poetry and literature. Like, I tried to change my face so many times. And it reminds me of C.S. Lewis's, the 1,000 masks or faces that we wear or whatever. And I was tired of it. And, I really, if this was God's gift, I wanted to be sure. And so I wanted her to know what she was, falling in love with. I mean, maybe she wasn't falling in love on day one, but we're just going to go with that. And so I put a test. So our waitress comes up, and, although it's all you can eat, so you can go up to the buffet, they bring you your drinks. And I figure, she's 21, I'm in my 30s, or she was like 24, I think. I was 31. And I asked her if she wanted to have some sake, and she never had sake. And I don't know about you guys, but I like cold nigori sake. So the unfiltered, milky kind of looking sake. I'm not a fan of the hot stuff, although, sometimes it's good and, it has its place, but I prefer sake nigori. And she was like, yeah, sure, I've never had it. And, if you've ever had Nigori unfiltered sake, you know that you have to shake it well before you open, right? And it's always served chilled. So the waitress brings the bottle, and she shows me the label and says, is this the bottle that you are looking for? And I said, yes, that's it. Very good. And I said, but before you open it, because I didn't know how savvy she was. So I asked her, could you please shake it? And so, she starts doing the shake where the bottom, like a clock pendulum going very quickly, goes left and right, tick tock, tick tock. And I asked her, you know what? No, I told her that's not actually going to be good enough. Could you shake it up and down? And so, she had the hand around the neck of the bottle and she starts to shake it up and down. And I asked her, well, actually, it would really help if you could put your other hand underneath the base of the bottle while your other hand is on the shaft of the bottle and you go in an up and down motion. And so she starts doing it. And I give this kind of look to my, not wife at the time, but kind of gave her one of those devilish looks like, huh? Isn't that funny? Look what I'm making this girl do. And she blushed, man, so much. And, obviously the girl stopped shaking the bottle and she said, is that fine? And, I wasn't going to push it over the limit too much. And so, that was the end of that story. But, she needed to know I'm a funny, sarcastic person. If there is a line, like my friends will say, I will take a pole vault and go as far as I can across the other side just to push limits sometimes, because that's who I am. I'm the devil's advocate at times. And so she knew instantly. And the fact that she laughed, and was a little embarrassed, and that she was still cool with it and still thinking about me a week later to take me out to breakfast, I thought, this might be it. This might be the girl. And I was right. And she's incredible. And I just want to say that, the Lord heard my prayer and apparently didn't want me to be a debauched degenerate. I don't think maybe that was ever the plan, but, maybe sometimes you're broken down by life so that when you are finally given that fresh glass of water, you really learn to appreciate it. And so, again, I don't know what 100 relationships before I met my wife means as to how much I had to correct in order to be worthy of her. But, as the Rascal Flats will say, and I'll end it with this, thank God for the broken road that led me here to you, baby. Have a wonderful week, guys. Thank you for sharing some time with me. Smash that subscribe button, share me with a friend, like, leave a review, all those wonderful things. Pachos Chachos for life. I'll see you next week.